Tujikaze, tujikaze, jikaze. Tujikaze, tujikaze, jikaze. Africa, tujikaze, tujikaze, jikaze. America, tujikaze, tujikaze, jikaze.
You are listening to African Father in America podcast by Simon Javanokelo, live from Seattle, Washington, USA.
Thank you so much. Greetings, village. Thank you for joining me for another amazing session here of the Daily African Proverbs. This is the African Father in America podcast, and we are here and we have another African proverb that we are going to discuss today. Our proverb today is all the way from Nigeria, and this proverb is very popular amongst many Africans who love proverbs and words of wisdom. I'm going to share it in a moment. For now, I want to welcome you all. I want to welcome Sambaza Podcast, who has joined us, and I want to welcome Michelle, who has also joined us, and I want to invite you to take a minute and share the link to the room as we are just beginning our session today. So it's a great moment for you to be able to support by letting other people who love what we do here know that we just started. So go ahead and ping everyone that you can ping to join us here for an amazing session of the Daily African Proverbs. So as I was hinting earlier, today we are taking a virtual journey to Nigeria, and our proverb from Nigeria says that it takes a whole village to raise a child. It takes a whole village to raise a child. This proverb reminds me of my own upbringing. It reminds me of raising my own children. It reminds me of seeing other parents that we are also raising children together with, how they are also, raising their children, but how it's really taking the village to raise, these children. But also when you think about it, beyond children, this proverb also applies to many other aspects of life that we are going to talk about today. This proverb might apply to a business idea that you have that needs the village to help that business grow. This proverb might also apply to even something that you need, that it takes a village for you to accomplish, So I want you to come with an open mind. I want you to, join us on the stage so that we can hear your perspectives in regards to this proverb. What does it mean to you? We are going to hear from all of you. I see that my brother Andrew is here, and my brother Rushi is also here. And I see that we've also been joined by Yitse as well, and Michelle. Thank you so much for taking your time to join us for an amazing session of the Daily African Proverbs. I am also live on YouTube. I am going to share the link in just a moment before we go too far, so that those of you who want to join us over there on YouTube can get the direct link to help you subscribe to the channel, but also to help you, be more engaged with what we are discussing today. I hope you are all doing well. I have 3 nuggets that we prepared for you today, and I'm going to share these nuggets. And, all these nuggets are related to why community is the key to a child's development. And, when you think about this proverb that we're discussing today, it takes a whole village to raise a child. This is from Nigeria. This is often used to emphasize the importance of community in the development of young people. And although this proverb originated in Nigeria, it is now used by people from all over the world. If you look at a lot of TED Talk videos, they actually reference this. A lot of TED Talk videos use this proverb, in many company situations, even where collaboration is expected, you find people using this proverb. And according to this proverb, it takes more than just parents. If you own an idea, it takes your employees, it takes the city that you live in, it takes the country that you live in order for you to actually, it takes the world. For example, if you go further outside of our space right now and think about the situation between Europe and Russia, where the Nord Stream pipelines have just been sabotaged over the last few days, and we find that European countries that totally depend on on Russia, on the gas pipeline from Russia to heat their houses, to cook and to utilize the gas for whatever they need, are now extremely worried, because in order for them to thrive in Europe, they depend on Russia. And then at the same time, you find that there is a lot of hunger in many parts of Africa, because when we don't grow our own food, we depend on Ukraine and also Russia, because they produce wheat and grains in large scale. And now that the supply chains have been disrupted for almost a year and a half now, you find that people are not in a good situation. So those are just some comments to get us started. Here are the 3 nuggets, and then I'll open the floor so that we can hear from all of you incredible contributors that have joined us today. Number 1, community is the key in child development. That's really the overarching theme of our conversation today. So first year, we learned that a sense of community provides children with a sense of belonging and purpose. This can be crucial in their development, as it can help them feel accepted and supported. Number 2, involvement in the community can help children learn important life skills such as teamwork and cooperation. And then number 3, community involvement can also expose children to new opportunities and experiences, which can help them grow and learn. So those are our nuggets for today. I want to thank you, Andrew, my brother Rushi, and Lavender for being here to support this important work that we do. I just want to invite Lavender first. Just double tap your mic if you're in a position to speak, so that we can hear a bit of your voice this morning.
Hello, hi Simon.
How are you doing, Lavender?
Good, it works today.
Yes, it works beautifully. Let's hear your perspective on what this proverb means to you. It takes a whole village to raise a child.
Thank you, Simon. My perspective about today's proverb, it takes a village to raise a child. Um, First, there's one of our families who needed help with the kids, and he made that comment yesterday. So this is is quite a coincidence. He used this phrase yesterday morning, and this is today's proverb. Um, it takes a village to raise a child. When this is said, what comes to mind is uh, a child growing up needs the support of a community comes together to raise a child. A community can be family of both parents of the child, or even extended family of the child. And we find that in most cases, a parent or parents are not able to be with the child throughout their life. considering that we have teachers, we have people um, playing roles in the life of this same child, and this helps develop the child into a member of the society and guides the child into choosing what direction they need to take when they get to adulthood. This is Lavender. Thank you, Simon, for the opportunity to speak.
Thank you. Thank you for your contribution, Lavender. I appreciate that. And, thank you for being here. I want to also welcome Brother Arath in the room. Thank you for joining us. We are here, we've been here for a little over 10 minutes. We are discussing another amazing African proverb. Today's proverb is from Nigeria, and it says that it takes a village to raise a child. This is one of the most popular African proverbs that, if you Google it, you'll find it in so many, platforms. But you will not find a place where, it's discussed and broken down the way we are doing right now. There's another Nigerian proverb that is actually so funny, and this is common in many African cultures. It's always prohibited to discuss African proverbs. You should let people figure it out on their own. So there's another Nigerian proverb that says, he who interprets the meaning of an African proverb, the cows that were used to marry them should be taken away. Anyway, that the proverb goes like that, something like that. So, Nigerian proverbs are actually, since I started bringing this show, the Daily African Proverbs, I think they are the most, they are the highest number of proverbs we've discussed. There's just a lot of Nigerian proverbs. Nigeria is actually the most populous country in Africa, and they're just rich when it comes to their culture and how they've preserved their culture using these proverbs. Anyhow, I want to welcome you, Brother Rushi. I want to hear what you have to say in regards to today's proverb. Share with us where you're joining us from as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Simon. I am in Charleston, South Carolina, where my roots are. And yeah, this proverb is definitely the most well-known proverb I believe there is. But it's also my favorite proverb, and it's a proverb that's very important, very dear to me. This proverb makes me think of um, my community, the community where my uh, father is from, and practically all my relatives live. Is It's a community called 10 Mile. It's in the Allendale area in Charleston. And what's so important to me about this proverb is it is so true. It is so true. I remember growing up in this community where this community is it's a very special community. It was an all black community. But what made this community so special was the people. On there was a community grocery store that was a black owned, which was owned by one of my family members, and also in the community there was my aunt. She owned a juke joint on another street in the community. But also in the community we had a big recreational field that actually overlooks the water, where we had a baseball field, and our community we had a community baseball team where all the men majority of the men who were athletic, they all played on this team. So on Sundays, it would be such a big thing. There'll be everyone in the community would come out. We would play other communities, but it was so important because you see all the kids would be there, and we would just be in awe looking at our the men in our community playing baseball. It was just such a beautiful thing to see. These were our heroes. We didn't look up to professional baseball players like whoever they were. We looked up to the people in our community. Those were the men in our community. They were so important. We would see them play baseball. We would see them play baseball on Saturdays. We would see them in church on Sundays. And these are the men that shaped our community. Like my father, for instance, he was on the baseball team. He wasn't a very good baseball player, but he was on the team. But my father, he's a businessman. He's been a real estate. He has his own real estate company, which he's had for over 30 years. And there were other men in our community that had jobs. Like they may have had a job. They may have had a trucking job. But these are the people we looked at as a kid. You would look up to these men, and they would be the ones that guide you. If you were doing something wrong in the community, they would say something. And whenever you felt like you didn't know which way to go, you had someone to kind of look at to say, you know what, when I get older, I can do that, or I can do this. Like for me, everyone asked me, well, how did I get into real estate? And at first I said, I don't really know how I got into real estate, but then I had to stop and say, well, look, my father, all I had to do is look at, if I wanted a good example of what to do, I could just look at my father. Or there's another man in my community who had a trucking company. I had a lot of guys in our community. Now they're inside the trucking business. So we always had people to look up to. All that really changed. Honestly, all that really changed when the crack epidemic happened. That really devastated our community and a lot of other Black communities. But we always had something positive to look up to before the crack era started. I look at a lot of these kids, a lot of our youth now, they look at going to jail as being a badge of honor or some type of rite of passage. And I always say to myself, where did this come from? And it's just the fact that, a lot of the men in our community, they kind of either got successful and they went away, or a lot of what we see now in our community was the drug dealer or the crack guy or the guy selling the drugs. So that replaced a lot of the positive role models that we had in our community. Even to this day, like when I drive through my communities, my community went from being all Black community to a majority white community. And it hurts a lot to see a village or community being transformed or transitioned that way. But this definitely is a proverb that is very, very true. It's really the epitome of growth. It really does take a village to raise a child. It takes a village, but also whenever you have an idea, especially in American culture, we pride ourselves on being such individuals. We pride ourselves on being self-made, which really isn't a real thing to be. I look at the people in my community. Everyone wants to have their own everything. Everyone wants to have their own house, which is nothing wrong with that. But we lose the focus of having cooperative economics. We lose the way that we should grow, which is not by ourselves. We should grow together, not independently, which is what we pride ourselves on nowadays. Everyone wants to be so independent, and everyone wants to be so self-made. And I think we don't see how that's really destroying the fabric of what we should be striving for, which is collective growth, cooperative economics, and those are the real assets of life, in my opinions. So I appreciate the time, Simon. Thank you. And those are my thoughts on this beautiful proverb. Thanks.
Thank you, Brother Rushi, for your incredible contribution on today's proverb. I just want to welcome everyone who is in the room right now. I see that we've been joined by Coco, who is an amazing supporter of this space, and Robert, and we are here discussing a Nigerian proverb, and this is being recorded for the African Father in America podcast. We are also live on YouTube. The link is at the top of the room. One of the ways you can support is to subscribe to that YouTube channel. I'm live right now over there, and Brother Rushi, I really, really agree with what you're saying. It's incredible to just hear that from you, but to also walk that journey with you, the journey of transformation of your community because of gentrification, because of the crack era, and also what the results that we are seeing, the missing figures, the community leaders that used to guide young people that are no longer there, and what we have now are individualistic people who they want to amass as much wealth as possible. It doesn't matter how. And when you mentioned how now young people look at going to jail as a badge of honor, it reminded me of Kenya, and maybe many parts of the world. But in Kenya, the most corrupt person is the new president, and people are now embracing corruption, embracing, acquiring wealth by any means necessary as the way to the top. It doesn't matter how you get it, as long as you get it. Even if you murder people along the way, you will buy the judges. And that is something that is quite unfortunate, because once you take that route, you can't reverse it. And it's really, really incredible to think about. And also, it's good for us to take this chance to start to imagine what kind of village do we want to create for our children and also for ourselves, because we are now some of those people. Not too long ago, I was one of the teenagers that were marauding our neighborhoods in Kenya, causing a lot of trouble. And here and there, I would see elderly brothers who would, bring you and have a conversation, have a come to Jesus conversation with you, and sometimes actually beat the hell out of you in order for you to come back on track. They are not even related to you, but they've watched you and they're like, this boy needs some discipline, or they need someone to talk to them. And sometimes that helped, but these days, you don't get a lot of that. You don't get a lot of that. You don't get a lot of support from people outside of your own household. And I think it's really, really critical what this proverb is trying to tell us. Now, I want to welcome you all. I want to ask you to take a minute and share the link to this room also within Clubhouse, and ping in 3 to 5 people as we continue with our conversation today. I want to invite Brother Andrew to also let us know where he is joining us from and what today's proverb means to him.
Hey, good morning, Simon. It's great being here. I'm actually in Connecticut, in the U.S. and in the New York area, and this proverb really, there's so much to unpack from this particular proverb. I mean, one of the things that I look at is, if you look at the foundations, right, and you look at Genesis in the Bible, God in his wisdom, when he created Adam, knew that it was not good for him to be alone. And so human beings were created to be in community. And so when we look at what that community represents, there are 3 levels. One, they're the elders, they're the peers, and then they're the youth, the ones that are younger. And it's how those 3 communities, those 3 groups come together to form a community. From the elders, we get wisdom. From our peers, we get socialization. And that's where most of our friends, our lifelong friends, come from, are from our peers. And then from the youth, we have opportunities to mentor and support and encourage. And unfortunately, when we look at society, some of those, and it's a balance. It's a balance between all three groups. And unfortunately, as was Rishi was indicating before, um, sometimes one of those areas are missing, and especially for the African American community, we are missing the influence of the elders. And I think that we really, and as you mentioned, Simon, it's also missing. It's a component that's missing in a lot of places to really create that balance. And this particular proverb reminds me, my youngest brother was actually killed, murdered in New York City many years ago. And as I and my family were going through that whole process of, the trauma created out of that particular event, it was as a result of quote unquote African American or African American violence. And as we were going through that process, I used to go to conferences around the country. And one of the speakers at one of the conferences gave me a quote which is attributed to James Baldwin. And the quote says, "A child believes everything. He has no choice. When a child retreats and can no longer be reached, it is not that he has ceased to believe, but it is those who are all that he has who have failed him. It may take many years and many forms, but that child has chosen and runs to death." And to me, this particular quote is a reflection of what happens when the community is dysfunctional, is that we have young people running to death because they're not able to separate what is good and what is bad. And they're left to themselves. And so what I'm calling for is really a return to a balance. The way African life was, where there was a balance between the three groups. And with that, I'm complete for now.
Thank you so much, Brother Andrew. I just love how you broke it down to the three different categories that are supposed to be in existence in our communities, in our society, and at any given time, and how that is lacking in many parts of, the African American community, and also in many parts of Africa. You find that because of the instability that colonialism brought, because of the instability that civil wars recently have brought, because of the instability of urbanization in Africa, you find that a lot of people, even until today, are leaving rural areas for the cities, where they literally disappear for years looking for greener pastures. They never go back home. By the time they go back home, their lands have already been purchased by, people who are basically changing the landscape and kicking out the indigenous owners of the land. So we have a major problem, and it's really about what this proverb is saying. It takes a village, not just to take care of a child, in my opinion, but to even keep the village together. Now, I want to welcome you all. I see that we've been joined here by Flamingo. Thank you for joining us. I also see Melissa and Jay, of course, Coco and Stella. We're going to hear from you in just a moment. Right now, I want to
Hi, Simon. I'm so sorry. I have to go into a meeting soon. I
Oh,
just
you
came
do.
in because I was pinged, a couple of times by some other people also in the room, but I can't stay for very long. So I wanted to share something quickly, but I don't want to be discourteous to the other people waiting. But I just wanted to, I sent it to you in the back channel and in the chat that I can't stay for super long because I have another meeting.
Fantastic, fantastic. Well, let's see if Brother and Stella and Coco and Jay are fine with you just sharing now since.
I'm fine. This is Jay. Absolutely, I'm fine.
Fantastic. Fantastic. Coco and Stella and Brother, you're good. Just tap your mic.
Yes, go ahead, go ahead.
Thank you guys. I'll keep it super quick. I just love the topic and I really respect the people who are in this room. My contribution is these conversations and then the actions we put behind them is what makes the saying still alive today. I'm very proud to be from a culture that believes this. And I feel like right now, what it requires in order for a village to raise a child is commitment. About it, but it takes like actually making a commitment to a cause that is doable for you, that aligns to you. It requires investment of time, energy, money. And it also, to me, requires consistency on my part. If this is going to be real for me, the statement, the mantra, I have to do those things. I have to really prioritize. And in my community, we've expanded beyond just serving families and children. So we are actually going to corporations now. We're a think tank.
I love that. I
Help.
Go ahead, Melissa.
Hello?
We missed
Okay.
you for a
We're
moment
actually going.
there.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's
Let me just
okay.
move. Let me.
We lost you when you
Yeah, I
said
see the
you are
red
a
bar
think
now.
tank.
Okay, let me go back. So I was saying I'm a think tank and I've expanded what we do and how we service in my company. So we actually work with corporations now. And one of the things that, when I'm talking to companies, I'm asking them, how are you helping your team members be able to be there for their children, for their families? We're taking it to the streets, we're taking it to the corporate streets, and we're asking the important questions. And we have a philosophy that we've put together that calls people higher. And we put our effort and our time and our money as a company behind it. And so, I just wanted to offer that quickly to the community about what we're doing to help make sure that this beautiful mantra that comes from Africa is a reality here, not only in America, but around the world. Thank you guys for letting me jump in and share before I go to my meeting. I love you tons. Melissa done speaking.
Fantastic. Thank you, Melissa. Have a beautiful weekend and keep up the great work that you're doing. It means a lot that you took a few minutes to join us today. I want to, continue on with our conversation here and bring Brother Earth onto the microphone so that we can also hear your perspective, Brother Earth. What is it that comes to your mind when you hear this Nigerian proverb? It takes a whole village to raise a child.
Gratitude, Simon. Peace and love to you and all the family. And I always love the wisdom of the ancestors that we share with one another. And when I look at the proverb, um, what it's a whole lot of different ways I was looking at it. And first, you look at it as community. You could break that down as a common unity. And as a people, the village has been divided. Our whole mindset, we've been divided and conquered, and it's all about self. And back in the days, if you like, so myself, if I would go down Miss Roberta's house and think I'm gonna show out, Miss Roberta light me up, call my mama, my grandmama. By the time I get home, they done heard the story. I'm gonna get lit up again. You know what I mean? because I was acting out of order. And you know, having that the community where everybody was on the same page, you know, you had to have integrity. Now these a lot of times children get away from their parents, terrorize the neighborhood. The child down the street getting in trouble. The mama and the daddy want to come down there behind the child fighting too. You know what I mean? A lot of times children will fall out fighting. The parents be ready to shoot at each other, and the children be ready to play before the sun go down. You know what I mean? But it's so important that we come back to a loving community because uh, from different members of the community, you get different tools, you learn different lessons, and it helps you be more of a rounded and a balanced person. That's why that's so important to have that network of people all wanting the best for everybody because we go much further as a unit with love opposed to, you know, everybody having their own agenda. But I'm going to park my plane right there. I got the red bar at the bottom of my screen. Peace and love, family.
Peace and love to you. Peace and love to you. I took common unity, common unity, and I always love these ways that you break down words and give them, you know, new meaning or the real meaning of these words. And you know, I just love that. Thank you, Brother Earth, for your contribution. Stella, how are you? Where are you joining us from? And what are your thoughts on today's proverb?
Hello, Simon. This is Stella Oigo. Joining from Kampala, Uganda. I've missed Kenya. The few days I've been here, I'm homesick already. Yeah, so today's proverb, it takes a village to raise a child, reminds me of growing up when any adult would discipline you. And you didn't have the room like to do bad things because your parents were far away from you. Maybe you're in school and you thought you had the freedom. Any adult was allowed to discipline you. But nowadays, I don't think that happens. So I don't know if we can never go back to those days, but I think those days it was good because it also promoted like that communism, and not really communism, but people looked out for each other in the community. And that was a great experience. Otherwise, I've invited a friend of mine here. I've made friends over here in Uganda, and he's Daphne, so I'll give her my phone to say hi.
Ah, hi everyone. Hope you're all doing fine. So about the proverb, it takes a village to raise a child. Yes. So I basically think learning never ends, and we all do not know it all. So we always need hope from the other elders. So when you know your child is out there, you know they are safe because someone has a hand on them. Yes, that's all I have to say about it.
Oh, very, very beautiful, very beautiful. Nice to hear your voice, Daphne. You know, Kampala is definitely a place to visit, and I'm grateful that Stella was able to invite you to our conversation today. Yes, it takes a village. It takes a village to raise a child, and you know, as Stella was speaking, I also remember those days. You know, earlier on, I was speaking about the benefits of just having other people that cared. You know, parents can't do it all on their own. You know, I'm a father of 3 girls, but my mother had over, you know, we were like 9 in our family, And then, my father was a polygamist. He had 2 wives, and the first wife had more than 10 children. So you can imagine, keeping an eye on all these children, especially for someone like my father, was probably overwhelming. But somehow the village kept the whole family together, and now he's in his 80s, getting close to his 90s, and he's probably very proud of the work that he did. But really, the village contributed massively to our upbringing, and I feel that the village now is so complex. The internet is part of the village, and our children actually consume a lot from the internet than we even know. And we as parents also consume a lot from the internet that we feed our children even without knowing. So I think part of what the work that is required is really going even deeper into ourselves and understanding, what are other aspects of the village that we are not even aware of. So as we continue on with our conversation, I'm just getting more enlightened. But I want to give Coco a chance to also speak and share her perspective on today's proverb. Thank you again for being here with us today, Coco. Go ahead and unmute. Let us know, Coco, where you're joining us from and what your perspectives are on today's proverb, if you are able to. Okay, we will come back to you in a moment. We'll go to Jay for now. Jay, how are you doing? Share with us where you're joining us from, and also what today's proverb from Nigeria means to you. Thank you.
Good morning. I live in Seattle. Right now I'm in Florida. But this, I've heard this all my life. And you have to decide nowadays. At what point I agree with brother and others that you really did have a village of people, your neighbors, your community that were truly concerned about the welfare, the well-being of all the children, and making sure they did the right thing and they were in the right place at the right time, hanging out with the right people. And now I agree that that's not quite the same at all. But when it comes, for me, it depends on what's the village you want. What kind of, and you mentioned the internet and all of that. What type, you have to decide as parents, you have to decide as a community, what is it that you want for your children to know, to understand, to learn? What type of individuals do you want them to develop into? And for me, that means I create my own village. I did not. When my children were younger, I'm paying attention to who's influencing them, who's around them, who they're having, who they've decided to have as their friends. I'm paying attention to what their parents do, what their parents are like, how their parents act, how their parents behave. And so every parent is different. But for me, it was important that I made sure, and that village for me included the church. It included the church. And so it was important for me to know who my kids were around and to watch what they were doing, to listen to what they were saying. And so it takes a lot more work because in some communities, because you don't have that extended family, like the aunts and the uncles and the grandparents that help you to keep your children in alignment with what your expectations are for them. So I agree, it is a lot hard. It takes more work, but the work can be done, and they really do have to know what's right from wrong. They must know it because children are easily influenced as they're learning, as they're developing, as they're growing, as they're trying to understand. This is Jay, and I'm done speaking. Thank you.
Thank you, Jay. I appreciate that. I appreciate that deeply. I see that Robert has joined us here again, and I want to just create space for Robert and also Coco. Coco, can you double tap? I just want to make sure we don't skip you and forget about you. Okay, we'll come back to you. Robert, how are you doing? And what are your thoughts? And where are you joining us from today?
First of all, good morning to everyone. Thank you for allowing me to have space with you guys on this stage. I'm coming to you from the village of Harlem in New York City. The reason why I came to this room with great quickness is because the title speaks to my life's work. Um, I am a father. I have a daughter. I have grandchildren. And a large part of my life from even as a young man has always been about community. I've always had a sense of something that was bigger than myself, and that disposition always led me to doing things in the community and being involved with young people and helping shape their their perspective of the world and giving them the tools that they need to explore their wonderment and to realize that they truly can achieve whatever it is that comes from within them, um, and showing them what that looks like. So this particular topic, it takes a village to raise a child. This proverb is the result of uh, an absolute truth, because no matter where we are, greeting to my brothers and sisters in Africa and all around the world, we are truly one. We are truly one mindset. And um, for me, just knowing how important it is, um, it looks like this when we say it takes a village to raise a child, it means that individually, as we move throughout this world, when we encounter young people, we leave young people with jewels. Doesn't have to be complicated, and it changes from decade to decade. What communication is, what type of communication, what wording is going to be used. But these days, when I see a certain group of young men, I look at them and I just say, "Look, I expect great things from you." And that's it. I walk away. I don't even really get into it. I look them right in their eyes. um, I have the I'm fortunate enough that I can move around in certain circles of young people, right? They have respect for me enough for me to be able to have a voice with them. And those are the little things that I do. And when you say that to a child, I expect great things from you. And, that sort of sparks something in them because you're not chastising them. You're telling them like, we expect you to be great. And, so things like that are key in communicating with our young people, certainly within our family. I mean, look, my grandkids, all they know from me is business. They know love and discipline, all those things. But, if they're sweeping the floor and, they enjoy sweeping the floor, I'm like, well, you can have your own a cleaning business. Like I always transition it into a bigger thing. I really challenge them and help them realize just what it could become and just from that simple action, that simple thing that a kid is involved in, and just give them templates and challenge them to explore. What a wonderful thing. What a wonderful joy that we have between the ages of when they're born until they get about 13, because when they hit the teenage years, we all know what happens, right? They're going to be teenagers. They're going to learn. They're going to get heartbroken. They're going to do dumb things. They're going to make mistakes. But if we do our jobs as parents, if we do our job as a village, we give them the tools, we give them the discipline, we give them the love, we give them all those things as their center point. When they veer off and as they learn their lessons, we can leverage the time that we spent with them prior to that thing. We can always leverage that to bring them back to center. And I think this is so important because in America, we're in a crisis, and that crisis is the result of the type of music that's being put on the radio, the type of toxic content that's being put out there, the type of propaganda content that's being put out there in social media, the type of movies that they're looking at, the type of agendas that are out there that's being pushed out there, the polarization climate, the politics, that they are being bombarded by a whole lot. Like really. So we have to get back to insulating them, protecting them, and giving them the tools that they need to navigate this madness. And I think that effort collectively throughout the world, in wherever we are, whatever situation, whatever young kids we got throughout the globe, we have the power to make a change by pouring into our children. It truly takes a village of like-minded individuals on the same mission, and I think we'll begin to see a lot of change. This is Robert Dupreme. Thank you for having me. I graciously land. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Robert. You spoke quite, quite the words of wisdom that we needed to wrap up our session here today. And I thank you. I thank you for the work you do. For your own, your own children and grandchildren, but also your immediate village, and also you've extended that service to all children of African descent by pouring into this space, because we are distributing this moment through the African Father in America podcast across the world. People are going to listen, people are listening now, people are watching, and really this is how we can build our global village, especially our global village for young black children. The day before yesterday, I was getting my children ready for bed, and I have a habit of sharing with them on my way to school. I share with them what the proverb of the day is, and I didn't share it with them. So as they were brushing their teeth, the older one asked, what was the proverb of the day today? And I was actually taken a little aback. I was like, wow. You knew that there was something missing in your diet, and you wanted us to talk about it. So that meant a lot to me. But that just also reminded me that what we are doing here in this moment is more important than we might think. These proverbs, they go a long way. When you seek these proverbs and you seek the words of wisdom from our ancestors, you get it. But you don't only get it for yourself, you get it for your children and your children's children. So I just thank you all for being here for the last 1 hour and for helping build this platform that we have been growing since January 2021. And as we come to the end of this week, I want to encourage you to make sure you follow the African Father in America Club here on Clubhouse. This has been our gathering place literally since we started this work, of bringing these conversations to a live community conversation like this. And also, if you haven't subscribed to my YouTube channel, the link is at the very top of the room. I want to make sure that you all subscribe, because besides the content from the podcast, we are putting out a lot of new content there. We also have a blog, that we write based on these conversations, and it's on my podcast. So if you want to learn more, the best place for you to engage with me directly is through my Instagram. My Instagram is connected to my Clubhouse profile. It's at Okelo Javan. So follow me there, send me a DM, and I'll be able to share with you more information about how we can collaborate and build our village together. I just want to check with Coco one last time. Coco, are you there? Okay, I think Coco is not available today. So have a beautiful weekend. Thank you all, really. It means a lot that you took the time to be here with me for today's session. Have a beautiful, beautiful weekend.
African Father in America. Tujikaze, tujikaze, jikaze. Tujikaze, tujikaze, jikaze. African Father in America. Tujikaze, tujikaze, jikaze.
You are listening to African Father in America podcast by Simon Javan Okello, live from Seattle, Washington, USA.